and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I am your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known for over 40 years, nationally, internationally, locally, as the Money Lady. And again, this program has aired on DATV, headquartered in Dayton, Ohio, with other stations throughout the United States that are affiliates. This show has aired for over 14 years. So when people say, well, I don't know who you are, well, I'm not looking for a personality. The reason I made this commitment was because my viewers and people in general in this country are not very literate on money and finances. We know this because of the number of people that retire that only have $25,000 saved up. That's all. And you say to yourself, how in the world is this possible in the United States of America? Well, it's possible because, again, if you don't have education around the things that matter, you're going to be just out here. And sorry, longevity is not going to be great. You may live long, but you won't have much to live off of. So it was with that commitment in mind that I started this show. Now, please be aware that in the interim, I've also had the distinct privilege of visiting and living in other countries, including People's Republic of China and Africa. As you see this leather, these little leopard things. I love them. Love them. The real ones are running around. They'll eat you. But as a result of my travels and talking and listening to people, I learned a lot. And I learned that everybody all over the world, all humans, families, have basically the same needs. We're not special. Everybody wants a good family life, period. They want children that they can be proud of. They want grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They want to be healthy. They want their stomachs full at night. They want to have decent housing, and they want their water source or water supply to be safe. That's everybody. They don't want the air poisonous. Whether you like climate change or not, the majority of people want decent air to breathe, because if you can't breathe, you won't be around. I would think that's intuitive, but for some people, well, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about what needs are globally, and what my experience as an international economist, that's what I'm trained and credentialed on. Now, mind you, sidebar, I did do private practice for over 40 years. I was not willing to be an advisor. I prefer to deal with the common people and to help them to build and to grow legacy for themselves and their families. And I will tell you that as we go into a new year, fast coming, and for some of us already there by the time this video arrives, things are happening so rapidly. And I know you all feel it even if you don't speak on it, because we're all human and we're all connected by a DNA, hear me, a DNA that tells our entire story. It's like God gave a video recording of the human race going back thousands of years. And because we're all interconnected, whether we acknowledge it or not, that's how they can run tests and know where you came from, where your family was. Who are you? Because we're all connected. Now that's a hard piece for some people to get to, because they say, well, I'm white and you're black, and I'm like, and melanin is ubiquitous in all races and nationalities. The fact that your people were in colder environments, which meant you did not need melanin like that. But the reality is that the world is one huge garden of all kinds of people doing all kinds of things and trying to live a life that will be satisfying and pleasurable. Significantly, everybody wants freedom, whatever their definition is, which is the ability to carve out their own lives, to live within their own means, to be the architects of their own destiny. This is what everybody wants. They want children that are loving. They really want to love, and they want to experience love. Some more successful than others, but all human beings have an innate desire to be accepted and to be loved. And that jumps over money, that jumps over, you want to be loved. And I respect that. So what I'm saying is that I honor the human dignity that is in all people, all races of people. I believe everyone has the right to be treated fairly and with dignity. I believe this. This is not new. I get very upset when I see discrimination. Discrimination is not just in the U.S. Discrimination is in so many other countries because of the circumstances of a person's birth, because of who their parents were or were not, and they are rejected and they are treated badly. We've got a whole long history of that type of behavior. And it saddens me to say that it's not getting better. In my view, it's getting worse, which is, what is your issue if we all come from the same people? It doesn't matter how you ended up. Know where your roots really are, and know that as humans, we all bleed, we all eliminate, we all are treated the same way by doctors. If you have a condition, whether it's in India or Europe or Congo or the treatment protocol is the same, with few exceptions. That's why doctors can all talk to each other at conferences, because they've been taught and understand the human body. Now the mind is something different, because the mind has been treated and mistreated all over the world. People have been demeaned, degraded, treated badly, colonized, killed, destroyed, families shut off, because within humans is something called, man, you're just crazy. And we all struggle with that, whether you acknowledge it or not. We all are struggling to find balance, to find peace, to find love, and experience joy that comes from being accepted and loved and embraced by your family. So I wanted to open up today's show because I'm going to be talking about changing times, changing seasons, and resetting. Now, and I was going to pursue another thing, but the more I think about it, changing times, changing seasons, and resetting. And when I talk about resetting, again, I'm speaking as an economist, because the entire world system is driven by money, currency, whatever you want to call it. We use money as a store of value. We also use money as a measurement of wealth, and we also use money as a measurement of character. And that is completely wrong. There are people out here that are wealthy, but their innards are rotten. Period. And to acknowledge that they're wealthy and give them all of these accolades when they have not an ounce of integrity. They have no sense of moral standards. What is that? They are godless. They don't believe in God. You know this. But I'm not judging anybody. You don't have to judge. Ask them. Ask them. And they will tell you. They will tell you. I don't have any use for him. And my response is, but you breathe his air. Well, that's his choice. I'm like, oh my God, did your mother drop you on the head when you were a baby? Where is the cruelty that has existed in your life to make you the kind of person you are? Real time. Nobody wants to deal with that. But I'm going to deal with that with you today. Because if you get nothing out of this show, you're going to learn that we are shifting globally. Globally. And a lot of this shift comes from Africa. Yeah, Africa, where mankind and humankind began. Africa. All the little sick, hungry children, and nothing is lies. I talked to y'all about lies. Don't believe the press. Strive to get the truth. So we're in changing times, and a lot of that has been determined by internet. Everybody all over the globe has internet. Now the good is that they have internet. The bad is that they have internet, which is no secrets. Everybody gets to see your stuff. Everybody knows about the United States. They know about our president and presidents. We get to look at them too. Their stuff is out there too. Ours is bigger because we are bigger. And also because, like it or not, up until about 60 years ago, the United States was seen as a beacon of hope and a measurement of dignity and strength. We did. We rolled into World War II. We should never have bombed Pearl Harbor. The country coalesced, and we were rocking and rolling, period. And the number of lives that experienced the United States was significant. Pacific, Africa, Europe, Asia. Oh yeah, they got to see this little country. And I do mean little, because our population was not that great, and it actually still isn't when we look at the numbers of people we have versus everyone else. We are not a heavily populated country. And we are a wealthy country. We are a wealthy country really because of World War II. Because when Europe lost, they lost everything. When Great Britain lost, they lost everything. Can you imagine being bombed every night? We go to bed, and if anything, we may be concerned about break-ins and robberies, but we have never experienced, as a nation, mass destruction. We have not. We have not had the sirens blasting 24/7 like in Great Britain, because the Nazis were blowing the heck out of everything. We have not experienced the pain and the starvation that the Russian people experienced because of World War II and the absence of food. Okay? I mean, really, Russia has suffered. So don't say anything about my opinions. This is, again, fact. I talked to you all about fact versus truth. It is a fact that over 5 million people in Russia starved. And then had a crazy dictator that killed a bunch of them because he didn't want Hitler to kill them. So this is that country has suffered. If you talk about humans. Now, if you want to be nationalistic and talk about, well, They're Russians. Well, they're Germans. Well, they're Japanese. Well, enemies, friends. Friends, enemy. This is why you don't get into the politics, but you look at the humanity underneath, which is, do you think all those people want to die of starvation? Really? When your bellies are full every night, many of us, although the numbers are growing, of people who are not okay. Hunger is real in America. Right. So when we talk about changing times and changing seasons, when the United States came out of World War II, we were the number one gangster on the globe. Period. We had a swagger that comes from being the victorious one. Everybody else was blown up and destroyed. And it allowed us to define who we were globally after World War II, because the treaties we signed mandated that they buy our stuff, they use our currency, and they allowed our troops to station all over to protect the world from the German madness, and Japanese too. And I guess I should put in Mussolini as well. But I'm saying all this from the seat of an economist. It allowed this country to dominate the world in terms of manufacturing and production. It did. They were vanquished. They were nothing but rubble. And we were untouched other than Pearl Harbor. We were. We had everything, and so we went to war based upon our own ability to produce guns and weaponry. And our people suffered inasmuch as we could not buy the things that we had previously bought. And also because so many of our men died for this. That's why I do not like anybody talking to me about war. Because as an economist, when I look at what happened in war, it did one major thing. It redistributed power. And it killed a bunch of men, primarily young men. Our sons and daughters died. Okay? They can't resurrect from the grave. They're gone. There are grave sites and museums all throughout Europe showing dead men from America. Veterans today understand that. And we need to understand it as well. I don't know about you, but I'm not so sure I'd be willing to die for somebody else's freedom in another country. Now, maybe my family, but our men went to foreign soils and we fought bravely and we died numerically, numbers that were just unseen, unheard of in the past. So where am I going with this? Because that was World War II. It allowed us to come back big, bold, and bossy. It allowed the United States to finance the building of homes for all of these people. Not all black people were excluded from that process. More on that later, because that was wrong. Our black veterans did not get homes and educational opportunities for the most part, but the majority of Americans, white, were able to get homes, ultimately cars, worked in manufacturing, made good livelihoods. Their wives were at home taking care of children. Was this not the American dream? Ha! And it worked good for a minute, but it was not based on the truth. It was not. Because the screenplay was always better than the truth. It just played better. And we felt as a nation proud. I'm talking about national behavior, not individual consequences and behavior. We as Americans felt, hey, cannot beat us. Set contracts and treaties in place to make sure that we stayed on top, to make sure that our way was the only way. we negotiated peace treaties that favored our country. And the argument can be made, well, we won the war. The winner gets all the pickings. Not when all of you come from the same DNA. Not so. You may think you got the pickings, but the party has just begun. So America evolved and grew and dominated troop activity. We were financing it. We allowed them to grow too, but they had to depend upon us to grow. And that had consequences. That did. We were not aware because we were the top dog. But when you're the underdog, you're going to run harder, scratch harder, sniff better, and you're not going to like the way that feels. So here we are today. 50 years ago, we began actively doing trade with China, other countries, but predominantly China, because the agreements that were entered into allowed us to work their people for pennies on a dollar, because we were in a growth mode. We needed cheap labor. Our unions were active over here, and our capitalists were like, we got to get up out of here. And they skedoodled over to the People's Republic of China, where those people were willing to work for virtually nothing to get their country back. And so fast forward 50 years, where are we now? Can I tell you the truth? Will you not turn off the show? Here's where we are now. We're in a techno-savvy world where internet and artificial intelligence drive the activity. These all require natural resources from the earth: lithium, cobalt, uranium, gold, and a redistribution of relationships based upon those resources. The United States, and how could I be so blind as to forget oil? Oil, because oil had to power our cars, had to power our plants and facilities. It was a driver. The United States had plenteous coal, but the reality is that the driver was oil. And frankly, as we speak, despite burps and everything else, oil is still the driver. And we had a lot of it. We did. Look at the state of Texas. That is nothing but oil. And they're rich, as they should be, because oil can be sold and you can make revenue and the government can tax it, and there you go. But I'm saying this was a 50-year process, so that you're not unclear. It didn't just happen about China. Please. It happened because they were willing to work for nothing. And we, as a nation, as workers that were paid and capitalists that controlled, we grew and prospered. But here's the end game. Technology, drones, artificial intelligence, all of these components have a consequence. All of it. Okay? We discovered that oil wasn't what it was supposed to be, and it could destroy the climate and ultimately you and I. We discovered that nuclear power, it may have blown up Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but nuclear power, uncontrolled, can destroy the earth. So now you're into a world of accountability and techno-savvy, and people are worried. Do I want to live in a world where I have to be concerned about somebody pressing a button and destroying everything? Or somebody putting things in the air and in the sky that will kill us? So now there is a new accountability. Do we have to worry about banks and the banking system categorically starving countries that don't believe in our value system? Or do we spawn competitive banks that could care less? They're going to lend the money and they're going to make the money. So we now have all of this going on. And it's been absolutely bizarre. May I begin? Because I'm talking to you. This is your survival. People are dying in the millions globally from things that were done without an understanding of the price that's going to be paid for a backwoods reset. If you're moving forward and your political apparatus says, no, we're not going there, we're going here. And the going here is to our own ultimate demise. Is that wisdom? Can we change it? Do we need to consider whether democracy is something that used to be or maybe never was? How do we negotiate and get along with people that don't look like us, think like us, or act like us? And how do we deal with the unveiling of all of this information from civilizations gone past that we knew nothing of, thousands and thousands and thousands of years of them doing amazing things, and we knew nothing of it? We thought we had it. We discover we didn't. How does that make you feel? Does it cause angst in your thought process? Are you willing to change and recognize that that way is over, cannot be resurrected, and we have to move forward? And what does moving forward look like? I am telling you that it takes work to recognize that you are not the boss of the world. It takes wisdom to recognize that there are millions and millions and millions of people who do not see the world the way you do. They were raised too, and they don't see the world the way you do. Are you willing to give them that right, since it's theirs anyway? Are you going to enforce your theology or philosophy? This is what got us in trouble with Vietnam. The French said, we are not touching them. They want to be communists? Roll with it. Of course, the French haven't done a lot of courageous stuff anyway. Please forgive me, I should not say that about them. But their arrogance, in spite of the revolution over there, they should be kinder, gentler people. What? Anyway, all of these things are in motion. And we're looking at the truth. And we're looking at facts. And we're dealing with countries that we were told look one way. And then we look on internet. They don't look nothing like that. They're modern. I went through the shock of my life. And I consider myself a reasonable person. But I lived in People's Republic of China in 2005. It was not what I saw on internet last year. The city I lived in was, at that time, it was developing. The people were very frugal, very close-knit. Starbucks was on every corner, even back then. People were strung out on Starbucks coffee. I'm not mad at them. It's highly addictive, and it tastes delicious. But they had them everywhere. And there was a ton of money being made. Not by them, but by Starbucks. They had Pizza Hut with chandeliers. I told them, I don't think Pizza Hut has chandeliers. Oh, no. We do pizza. That's an American thing. They were so enamored with our country. And their children were starting to look chubby, and the old folks were thin because they didn't eat like that. So we knew then something was going on with the food. Had a huge country that validated it. Young people liked pizza and liked fast food and liked sugar. And they were bigger than their parents. And their parents were like, oh my God, I can't get them to stop doing this. I said, food is addictive when it is not real. So, they were resetting then. We were profiting from that relationship. They worked for a little bit of nothing. We were able to get all kinds of merchandise. Well, all kinds. And everything looked good. But we stopped moving forward, and they kept going on. And they did not stop. And they not only reset, but they moved forward to a point where now their annual growth is almost 6%, and ours is only 2%. Come on, what happened? Well, we got comfy, we got bossy, and that's a bad prescription. You're not going anywhere with that going on. And then we got picky, which is, I don't want to work that job. I don't want to do that. And so what did? We brought in people who would. Nobody's going to harvest your lettuce and corn and everything. We don't do that. We don't even want to cut the grass. What are you talking about? Life is great. And it's great because we are on top. And it is great when you're on top for a minute. But history, economic history, has repeatedly shown that what goes up will come down. The Roman Empire, the greatest empire the world had ever seen. I mean, forever and ever. But did they not collapse? Arrogance will do that. Babylonian arrogance will do that. Britain's arrogance. You're going to go into India and abuse these people? Really? Look at England today. Look at England today. I'm not kidding you. Look at England. And then you have the history of this country, the United States of America. United States, meaning states that are united, that are on the continent of America. Every state has its own rules and regulations, but we are bound to the U.S. Constitution. We have democratic elections, and we have politicians that are to articulate the will of their constituents in that community. Is that what's happening today? Aha! Split down the middle. And I pray, and I really do mean this, because this follows the same pattern of Rome. It's the same identical pattern. Economic history has documented that. The Romans wrote everything, killed everybody, and a profound story of an empire in decline. And it blew out and became a has-been. Lost wars, strange people habiting, emperors dead, families torn apart. What happened? I'm going to tell all of you what happened. Change does not announce that it has arrived. It doesn't say, I'm here. It does say, you better look at me because you're not going to like this story. And then with the awakening comes the fear. Not the propelling, but the fear. Oh my God, let me protect myself and go in a hole. And change is not about that. Change is understanding the terms and the relationships have officially changed. That you cannot make assumptions about anything and anybody because everybody is on the same playing field. The same information I look at is looked at by economists all over the world now. I don't have a hegemony on information. The same bombs that are made to drop in Afghanistan, the same companies that made those bombs, are still making bombs for other countries. Okay? That's where they are. Reset says, we're not going to do this anymore because it's killing too many people, number one. Two, it's a deterrent to trade, because you cannot trade with people if you're blowing them up all the time. And finally, it is going to require a complete cultural resetting as you now get to enjoy Chinese food, Vietnamese food, Indian food, and a host of other food, because you're integrating their culture with yours, the result of U.S. presence in these countries, and number two, them immigrating to the United States. And immigrants characteristically take their home culture with them. We did. I say we because those of us who came to the U.S. not as immigrants but as slaves, we brought a way of cooking and feeding that was not typical of Europe. And it's called soul food, and voila, a whole bunch of people eat it. They love it. Okay? That's what happens when you reset when change shows up, and rather cling to a model that is no longer working. Come on, people. This is not working. Okay? They want to shut down the schools. They don't believe. What? We need more educated people than we have ever needed. We need young people that are smarter than smart, because they're competing globally with Chinese children, 25 million and more, that are certified geniuses. Did you know that? Do the research. Do the data. You will find out that they do not train their gifted children and educate them the same way as a regular child. These children are groomed for leadership and greatness. And we want to close down schools. I'm like, do you really think that's going to work today in the resetting that's taking place? Our children need to be brilliant, gifted, competitive, aware, okay, which diversity does force. I didn't say people were volunteering. It's not a volunteer thing. It's about survival. The fittest do survive. I think Darwin said that. He was correct. The fittest do survive because they're resilient and they will move in the direction that change is going. 10 years ago, we did not have drones everywhere. We did have drones. Unbeknownst to most people, the military was on drones. Manufacturing was on robots and drones, period. And they discovered that, heck, we can be anywhere in the world. We're not limited. We can be anywhere, quickly. I mean quickly. What does that mean for you? Well, it means for you that the technology has raced above your ability to process it. What does that mean? You got to go back to school. You got to get your thought processes in line with the technology. How many adults have done this in this country? Not enough, because they don't think it's a problem. And I'm saying to you, it's way beyond a problem. It's way beyond the problem. When you, many of you, still think that Africa is poor children and Tarzan. And all you got to do is go to Google and type up any capital in Africa, and you're going to be, what in the world? What have I been drinking? Where have I been living? The cleanest country in the world is in Africa, Rwanda, a female form of government. For all you female haters, don't go there. Same thing in other capitals. I know for myself, when I was in Burkina Faso, you all need to look it up, desperately poor, eating bugs. And then, voila, I discover, along with everybody else, it's a warehouse of gold. The mountains I walked on, underneath, gold. And the French were stealing all their gold and not even paying tax. I mean, when awareness hit them, it was rapid. You're out of here. We're not doing business with you. Bye-bye. I mean, that to me is profound and radical. The youngest president in the world is the president of Burkina Faso, and he's bringing a youthful mindset, which has terrorized many of the Western old tradition capitalists. Guys, you need to be terrified because young people do not have patience. I want it now. And they're smart. Yeah, I went to school. And that is going to be a problem. And it's going to hit you hard. Now, how does that speak to the American people? Well, we have to deal with truth and not facts. Back to what I said earlier. The truth is, most of the precious minerals are not here. They're over there in China and in Africa, and they are awake, and they are all coming together. I mean, seriously, right now, through an organization called BRICS, which represents over 60% of the world population. The U.S. only represents 4.5. That's the problem. That means they don't need us to buy anything from them. They can do with each other. They are good. We need them. They don't need us. Does that make people feel a little squirmy? Yeah, it does. Because you didn't treat them right. I'm not talking about the American people. I'm talking about the leadership and the capitalist class. They were greedy and mean. And I can speak from personal experience. How do you have a nation that has a ton of gold? I mean, every gold. And you let them starve. The people get nothing. Everything they get, you take. How's it going to end up right? How's it going to end up with us even being able to negotiate? So I'm saying this to you because the reset began about 2 years ago, actually, and we still don't know basic information. And I am going to admonish you. I'm not talking down on you. Don't get it twisted, because all of us came from the same two people. That's what we get with DNA. It started with two, and it just went everywhere, and here we are. But there is a better way. But it does require you acknowledging, number one, that you are not at fault. Stop carrying the guilt. It's not you. And stop letting them put it on you. We the people. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. You all carved that out. We did not do that. We were just worker bees trying to take care of our families and make a living. And it's getting harder and harder. But don't take guilt for their mess ups and their mistakes. Can I say that? Do not take guilt for a corrupt and savage mindset that does not care about humans. They only care about themselves. And why? Because if you're a trillionaire, all that money can be gone to eradicate all poverty throughout the world, including here. $1 trillion is not enough money with interest compounding. You don't have to do nothing. You're going to be rich forever. You cannot resolve the poverty and the suffering in this world. Why? Because I don't want to. Really? There's going to be an adjustment. There is going to be an adjustment. It's not going to be us. I don't think so. But I cannot help but be aware of all the flooding, all the bad weather, all the horrible things that are happening to people that are innocent. And since we don't have the power to flood anything, where do you think this stuff coming from? Well, Mother Nature's just mad. Are you nuts? Mother Nature has a name. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't know the name, then you got to go back to kindergarten and figure it out. I admonish you to wake up and to have a conversation. Get a globe out. All my grandkids have globes. And I'll tell them, look at the world. The world's a big place. It is. People want to be free. They don't want all this mess. Governments are being overthrown. Why? Because people want to be free. They don't want to be scammed. They want to be free. So you see Madagascar, which is off the coast of Africa. Hey, their president had to get on a jet and leave because the young people were going to eat him for dinner. These are things that would not have happened 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. But we're in a different place now. We have reset. And the American people have to get with the program. If you don't get with the program's going to get with you. For real. And it's going to come in the form of setbacks, disappointments, and increasing despair, because the picture that's painted, and that's a lie, here's the truth, the picture that's painted is that if we don't save the world, if we don't do this, that the world's just going to end. That's a lie. If we don't save ourselves, we won't be part of this reset, because it's getting bleaker and bleaker as they rise up and we go down. And the tragedy is that the working people of America are not responsible for this one. Nah, we weren't responsible for the last one with all those bad mortgages. Okay, we work jobs. We don't spend time and energy figuring out how to extract money from well-meaning people. That is not our mindset, okay? And so now here we are, where we now are in a place where I'm telling you, line up with everybody else. BRICS is 65% and growing, world population. We're experiencing a decline because our women aren't having children. Who can blame them, folks? Similac and Infamil, $61. What? You can't even feed your babies? You can't take time off to have babies. If you do, it comes up under a special family leave thing. The world is not doing it like that. They value children. They value the future. People that don't value their children have nothing coming. You should hear the conversations of young people over here about how they can't wait for us to get sick so that they can get rid of us. That sounds like Brave New World with Aldous Huxley. It does. And I'm like, but these little things came from us. So what did they see in our culture and lifestyle that enabled them to conclude that we had no value other than unalived, as they say? What happened? And I'm suggesting to you that when the shift started coming, that we took as a nation, as a national culture, be clear, I'm not speaking for African descent people. I'm talking about as a national culture, we chose to go low. We chose to go divisive. We chose to point out victims. Yes, we did. We chose this, and we chose to ignore the facts, which are now freely available all over the world thanks to ChatGPT, thanks to internet. You can find out whatever you want. You can even do music now. The computers have the ability to write songs and sing them. I just had a wonderful song composed for me, and I was like, this person has a phenomenal voice. Who is this? They said, a robot. I said, oh, what? Yeah, a robot. They wrote the song. I told them the situation. They wrote the song. Then they saved it, and then they sent it to you. Folks, my eyes buckled. Like, oh, the music industry is over. The acting industry is over. This is real. I don't know about you, but I speak for myself. I'm doing this. I'm going to get through this. I'm talking about me, Michelle Graves, 40 years, financial expert, professional international economist, all this stuff. I'm doing it. I'm game. Okay? I'm game. Because we're going into a very different time in world history. And I am telling you, folks are not going to be starving because we refuse to play ball or played ball on such an unfair playing field that they just didn't even want to be a part of it. Are you getting what I'm saying? I mean, are you really getting it? Because it's that important to me. It's a part of your economic survival. If you play team ball, look at soccer. Can you imagine the forward going flying down the field with nobody backing them up? That is a recipe for suicide. You have to play team. You have to look at everybody as having value. Some have it expressed, some did not. But I firmly believe that every human being, given the right circumstances and given a cooperative team spirit, they can make it to the finish line with their children and grandchildren and their neighbors and their family. All this riotous behavior because people will not reset. They won't do it. I'm not dealing with the Chinese. You are already in bed with them. That is why you buy Temu and Shein. You already love that stuff, and it's no problem because they've been making clothing for thousands of years. Go to Singapore. You'll see some of the finest silk you've ever seen in your life. You go into another part of the world, India, diamonds. Diamonds? Yeah, diamonds. And for the record, India is bigger than China in terms of population. How you like that? The question is always going to be, how do I change it? And as Michael Jackson said before his death, he said, the change begins with you. Look in the mirror. Oh, that may be scary. Look in the mirror and see who's looking back at you. And see how you can begin to reset your life so that you can survive in the carnage that is coming. Oh, yes, it is. And if we continue alienating everybody as a government, we're not going to have any friends. And I don't know about you, but friends are my lifeblood. Period. Friends make it real for me. Family give content. And no, family is what it is. In this system, because family was never ever reinforced. Okay? And sending people to die in war is not what I'm talking about. But here we are, and I hope this is giving you, I haven't given you any strategies, but I will tell you that we are 2 years behind, actually longer than that. But there's going to fast approach a time where we can't catch up. And what are we going to do then? I'm not a soothsayer. I don't have that kind of advice. But I will tell you that the first thing you need to do, if you are responsible for any of this, and I told you the working class is not responsible for this mess. They're not. And just look at the facts, they're not. But you play an important role in the outcome. Encourage you to pray. Pray for real. Pray for our country. Pray for your family. Pray for yourself. And until I see you again, take care of yourself. Oh my goodness. Hold on to the ship that's not sinking. Hold on to that one. And I will talk to you soon. Take care of yourself. I'm Michelle Graves, the Money Lady, wishing you an amazing 2026. For real. Take care. Bye-bye.